We ready? We're ready. Hello, I'm taking this off. Hello, I'm Martin. Pleasure to be here in Seoul at beGLOBAL conference. And today we're going to talk about IoT, Internet of Things, or intelligence of things, or intelligence of everything, or, you know, IoT revolution. And first, I would like to introduce our guests, please.
Hi, hello. Hi, I'm Sonny Vu from Misfit, CEO and founder.
Hello, my name is Clare, Omaho니, and I'm from PCH.
예, 안녕하십니까. 전 한국오라클의 최윤석입니다. 한국오라클에서 IoT 부분 맡고 있고요. 대부분의 여기 참석하신 분들이 한국인이시기 때문에 제 메시지를 좀 더 명확하게 전달하기 위해서 저는 오늘 이따 디스커션을 할 때 필요한 경우가 아니라면 한국말로 진행하도록 하겠습니다.
So to begin with, I would like to dive into a very, very big problem of IoT today, and it is the format war. So the IoT format war. So what will the IoT look like at an infrastructure level, and what is the right path today for the IoT developers? So which platforms should they use? Sonny?
Yeah,
Claire.
sure, I can go first. So for those of you who have not heard of PCH, we are a company that have been around for 18 years designing custom manufacturing solutions for large consumer electronics brands. So in recent years, we have developed an integrated platform for startups with a number of startup programs to help startups get from prototype through to mass production and eventually to consumer. So we have Highway 1, which is a hardware incubator based in San Francisco. And then we have PCH Access, which brings prototype right through to mass production and consumer. And so in the last 3 years, we've had about 60 startups go through our different programs. And so obviously this question comes up a lot. For these startups, they're challenged with, they have limited resources, and they're challenged with figuring out which platforms to build on. And to be honest, right now, there is no one platform, no one hub that answers all of their questions. And so I think for our guys, we advise them right now, until that one hub or one platform materializes, the right answer is to figure out what your customers are using and build based on that.
Thanks for that, Claire. In terms of hardware platform, I would say it really can vary between device to device and based on different use cases. But obviously in terms of software, iOS and Android, we like starting on iOS just because we can develop a great user experience for that. Hardware-wise, I think we're going to talk a little bit more about how to build quickly. You have Raspberry Pi. We were just talking in the backstage earlier, should you start on Raspberry Pi or Arduino? And I said, actually neither. If you're going to make a mass-produced product, those kinds of platforms are useful to maybe prototype or experiment, but to build a serious product, I think you need a more serious engineering effort where you're going to be having much more customized components and whatnot.
What is your view on this?
예, 방금 미스핏 CEO께서는 그러니까 직접적으로 설계를 한 플랫폼을 근간으로 개발을 해야 사용화에 성공할 수 있다라고 말씀을 하고 계신데요. 제 생각은 물론 그렇게 할 수 있으면 좋겠지만 그렇게 하면 시간이 너무 많이 소요되지 않을까 생각이 듭니다. 그래서 앞에서도 잠깐 동의하시는 말씀을 하셨지만 처음 시작점에 있어서는 프로토타입을 할 때 이미 나와 있는 오픈 하드웨어 플랫폼을 사용하는 게 좋다고 생각하거든요. 근데 그거는 뭐 아두이노가 될 수도 있고 라즈베리 파이가 될 수도 있고 그 무엇이든 간에 에디슨 보드가 될 수도 있고요. 원하시는 것을 선택하시면 될 것 같고요. 그 중에 하나가 뭐 오라클도 그 위에 올라갈 수 있는 플랫폼들 자바 이미 인베디드 같은 플랫폼을 제공하고 있기 때문에 그것을 그러니까 원하시는 형태로 그냥 선택하시면 될 것 같아요. 그래서 그 작업 그러니까 실제적으로 처음에 아이디어를 어떻게 구현하느냐 빠르게 아이디어를 구현하는 방법으로 사용하시는 정도가 제일 좋지 않을까 생각을 하고 있습니다.
I heard Korean here, so I didn't understand. But I want to elaborate a little bit more what we spoke in the backstage that, okay, don't start with Arduino, don't start with Raspberry Pi because you cannot scale them. And so one thing was the cost of making it, and the other one was size. So let's talk a little bit more about it.
Well, you know, if you're going to make a mass consumer product, you're not going to be shipping with Raspberry Pi or Arduino, you know, because you need both low cost and very small size, right? Or usually you're going to need small size. But cost, it's incredibly important. If IoT products, if the products in this space are really going to take off, you need to have a highly engineered product that is extremely low cost. The cost of these products are dropping, and I don't think consumers are going to stand for expensive products in this space for much longer. And the second is having a great partner who can actually make this stuff for you on a highly scaled level. You know, we actually came here to Korea to make our first product, the Misfit, shine because we found an amazing partner. We work with Visionscape. I think Visionscape's here in the audience somewhere, and so if you see them, you know, you can say hi to them. But they do an amazing job for us in terms of producing the products.
Yeah, and I think it's a great point. We're going through a hardware renaissance, and everybody's talking about the tools out there for prototyping, the likes of the Arduino and the Raspberry Pi. But the reality is, bringing a prototype into mass production is extremely challenging. It takes a lot of investment, it's a lot of risk, and obviously coming out the other end with a product that consumers actually want to buy and will put their dollars down for is very difficult. And we see this all the time at PCH with our PCH Access program, where a startup will come to us with a final prototype, and we bring them through the process in China to find out the right manufacturer and eventually get to customers. But I think this is one of the areas that startups still find there's a major gap between the startup who can prototype with the Raspberry Pi and with the other tools, and those who can actually bring a product to scale and have that product, you know, shipping to Best Buy stores, to other stores.
Yeah, and just to really quick comment on cost. I mean, just to put in perspective why cost is so important. If you sell something at retail for $100, right, you can't make a product for $90 and make $10 profit. That's not how it works. If it's at retail, you know, and you sell it for $100, you're going to collect probably at most $50, maybe less, $45 out of $100. So the margin you make on hardware is going to have to be the difference between those $45 minus your cost of goods, and then that's on top of any marketing that you do. And so, you know, the margins can be very, very thin if you have high cost.
Okay, what about the communication technologies, so the networks for IoT? This is another topic. You know, we have Zigbee, Z-Waves, Wi-Fi, Bluetooth. Also, we have interesting things like Sigfox in France, who's doing a mobile cellular network for IoT, and many, many, many more of those. So what about the networks for IoT? Your opinions?
지금 IoT 환경에서 네트워크는 커넥티비티를 만들기 위한 하나의 수단이라고 생각을 합니다. 근데 그 수단이 뭐 무엇이 되느냐는 중요한 문제가 아니라고 생각을 하고요. 그래서 실제적으로 여러분이 구현하시려고 하는 그 서비스가 실제적으로 커넥티비티를 가질 때 어떤 프로토콜로 전송이 되는 것이 가장 최적일 것인가를 거기에만 포커싱을 가지는 게 가장 중요하다고 생각하거든요. 그래서 실제적으로 그 내가 선택하려고 하는 것이 내가 선택하는 쉽게 선택할 수 있는 라즈베리 파이나 이런 것들, 거기서 그 프로토콜이 지원될 수 있는가, 그 네트워크를 커버할 수 있는가에 대한 검토가 함께 이루어져야 된다고 생각하고요. 그래서 그것에 맞는 하드웨어와 내 그 서비스에 맞는 커넥티비티 방법, 그 프로토콜을 선택하는 것, 이게 최적의 어떤 그 서비스를 구현하는 첫 번째 스타팅이 아닐까 생각을 하고 있습니다.
Honestly, we just love Bluetooth because it's so pervasive and it's so easy for setup and whatnot. So that's what we use on just about everything we have, Bluetooth Low Energy.
So just Bluetooth?
Yeah, pretty much it. We've looked into Wi-Fi, but Wi-Fi is very high power, and none of our products require charging. So it's hard to use Wi-Fi when you don't have a power source.
So Zigbees and all the C-Waves, you don't see any
I
future for
just
them,
don't,
or?
I'm sure there are places in the IoT universe for that, but honestly, everything has Bluetooth. Every phone has. I mean, you have to ask yourself why in 2015 are wearables so pervasive? Why in 2015 are we talking about connected home products and the IoT? Well, it's because of mobile internet. Mobile internet is what is powering all of this. It wasn't like we couldn't make connected products 10 years ago. It's just that we didn't have anything to connect to. And so now we have mobile internet, and for the most part, at least in 2015, Bluetooth is one of the fastest and easiest ways to have that connectivity. Yeah, so that's, I don't know, that's just us. The other thing is you can do a lot with Bluetooth. You know, at Misfit, we actually have built a Bluetooth mesh network on top of the regular protocols, so you can have devices controlling each other.
And I also think it really depends on the use case, so on the end consumer's needs and what is the purpose of them buying that product. For example, we work with a startup called SwitchMate, and they are building a light switch that you can control with your phone. They're building on a hub as well, and so obviously, if you're away on holiday and you want to switch on and off your light switch, you're going to need Wi-Fi. So in that case, selecting the different components and choosing between Bluetooth, between Wi-Fi, and all of the other components that are possible, really it depends on how the product fits into the life of the consumer and what they plan to do with it.
Yeah, I was just going to ask about the range, because Bluetooth has the limit, of course, and then when you step outside of the home and you need to control something, long distances, then okay, Wi-Fi maybe.
Well, there are a lot of hubs have Bluetooth connectivity, so you can go Bluetooth to the hub, and then the hub can go to the cloud via Wi-Fi and whatnot. So that would be one way to get around it. I just like Bluetooth because it's so easy to set up, ease of use. The whole remote home monitoring thing. I guess you'll have to have Wi-Fi and connectivity to the cloud at some point. But boy, if I had to get my mom to set up a Wi-Fi Zigbee hub to get her smart light bulbs to work, forget it. She's just not going to do it. But if I could have her just screw in a Bluetooth light bulb, press a button on the app, that she could probably do.
Okay. If we're already in the home space and smart home things, then what are today the main hubs that me as a smart home device developer would like to connect with?
We're not experts on this, but I know Logitech is one of our favorite hubs. And so our products are connected to that. So our smart light bulb, for example, is connected to the Logitech hub. I think Roku has a hub too as well, of some sort. But I'm not that knowledgeable about it. Those are the two that we know of.
And so Apple are developing one as well. And I think a lot of companies out there are developing hubs. And I think the challenge today is that, again, there is no one single hub that is the answer for everything. And in some ways, I think over the next couple of years, a lot of these developers and development cloud-based systems are going to integrate and are going to work together. I think that it's at that point that we'll really see the smart home become a reality and integrate seamlessly into our lives.
지금 이 허브나 이런 것들이 좀 더 지금 앞에서 말씀하신 분들은 가정의 홈에 좀 더 포커싱을 하신 것 같은데요. IoT의 서비스가 꼭 홈이 중심은 아니라고 생각을 하거든요. 그래서 서비스에 따라서는 그 다른 것들이 준비될 수도 있다고 생각을 하고요. 그래서 예를 들면 오라클 같은 경우에는 프리스케일과 다른 다양한 종류의 게이트웨이 장비들을 만들어 본 적이 있습니다. 근데 이런 것들은 아까 앞서서 얘기했던 프로토콜에 따라서 어느 정도의 프로토콜과 어떤 레인지를 커버해야 되느냐에 따라서 다양한 다른 모델들을 만들게 됐었고요. 그 모델들을 이제 사용처에 따라서 공정 환경이라든가 굉장히 터프한 환경일 수 있기 때문에 그 각각의 환경에 따른 개발을 하는 것들이 또 필요할 수 있겠죠. 그래서 사실상 이 게이트웨이들은 뭐 어느 특정 회사, 뭐 각각의 삼성이나 LG 같은 홈 어플라이언스 매니팩처러들은 항상 그들만의 그 게이트웨이들을 준비하려고 할 겁니다. 근데 그런 것들에 상관없이 또 다른 게이트웨이도 또 준비될 수 있다고 보고, 또 공장, 이런 팩토리 환경에서는 그거에 맞는 또 게이트웨이가 준비되어야 된다고 생각을 합니다.
Okay, so now I have developed my device, I've chosen my network, I've chosen my hardware, and it's ready. It's beyond the prototype level, and I want everybody to find it. So what will the discovery of the IoT look like? I mean, with apps, it's very easy. I mean, you want to find a new game, you go to App Store, Google Play, Store, search, find, download, use. What about the devices, IoT devices?
Yeah, this is something I'm really excited to see evolve over the next couple of years. How do we sell these smart devices? How do consumers find out about them and understand what the capabilities of them are? So 3 months ago, we acquired the website fab.com. It's based in New York City, and it has a pretty large consumer base of mainly mainstream consumers, rather than the early adopters. And these consumers want products, and they want to understand what they can do for their lives. They don't want to read reams of the tech behind them. And I think this is the type of consumer that ultimately will shape the market and shape the types of products that come out. And so our goal with Fab, really, it's to build community. What we see with a lot of the products that launch onto the market today in the IoT space, they build community from the very beginning. One example of that is a company we work with called 3D Robotics with the founder Chris Anderson, and they've just launched the Solo drone, an amazing drone that'll enable you to take incredible aerial photographs. And the great thing about 3D Robotics is they have been building a drone community for the last couple of years all over the world. So when they launched their Solo drone last month, they had a pre-existing community of enthusiasts. And I think that community aspect is so important. The other important aspect with IoT products and with smart devices is giving consumers the opportunity to experience the products before they make the purchase. And we're seeing this with a lot of the large brick-and-mortar retailers, the likes of Best Buy in the US, Dixon's in Europe. We're seeing that they're now trying to figure out how do they showcase the IoT devices in a way that consumers can understand and can imagine within their lives. And I think, so with Fab, our goal over the next year is to create a couple of pop-up shops or pop-up stores where we give consumers access to these products so they can touch and feel them and get that experience.
Well, in this year, 2015, since the IoT consumer product space is still fairly young and new to places like Best Buy, I think people, to a large extent, are going to find out about these products in stores, and which basically means it's going to be limited to larger players and folks who can get into retail. You know, I'm hoping that will change over time so that the little guys can participate as well. Otherwise, it just feels kind of old school, you know, and more traditional. But we're just talking backstage, and I think one hack that might be interesting is, because these devices fundamentally have a software component, perhaps people can find out about these products from the app stores. You know, if you're looking up smart light bulb or whatever, maybe your app will come up and people can find that product. I mean, that would be one way around this system. But retail, even offline retail, is still going to be very important. The other thing is just having partnerships with e-commerce platforms. You know, we partnered with Jingdong, JD.com in China, because they have just massive reach. And so I think having the right partnerships in place can really help.
And just to add to that, in the early days, I think something we've seen over the last couple of years are these crowdfund platforms. So the likes of Kickstarter, the likes of Indiegogo. So before a startup even starts to ship its product, it can get exposed to huge hundreds of thousands of people, millions of people all over the world. one example of that is Podo, which is a company who went through our Highway 1 program, and I'm sure many of you will have heard about it. It's a Korean company, and they've developed a little stick-and-shoot camera, so you can pop your Podo up on the wall here, and I could be taking photo or video of the crowd. And so Podo launched a Kickstarter campaign in the early part of this year. They're planning to ship in July, but they already have a community all over the world, a large one in Korea, but obviously a large one in the US as well. And so when they actually ship their product, they're shipping it to a loyal base of advocates. And I think that's definitely something we would recommend as a company, using that option to go to a Kickstarter campaign or an Indiegogo campaign, or a campaign that you build yourself on your own website.
Yeah, and using that community to actually spread the word.
지금 그러니까 앞에서 말씀하신 분들은 이제 오프라인이나 온라인 웹사이트, 그러니까 온라인 웹사이트 혹은 오프라인 베스트바이 같은 오프라인 매장을 통해서 어떻게 그 IoT 디바이스를 찾을 수 있는지, 뭐 그리고 그것들을 소개할 수 있는지에 대한 것에 좀 더 포커싱을 해서 말씀을 해주셨는데, 전 약간 다른 관점을 좀 추가하고 싶습니다. 그러니까 해외에서 시작되고 있는 하나의 사례를 제가 본 게 있는데요. 그거 어떤 거냐면, 만약에 내가 IoT 환경을 구축하는데 온도 센서, 그 다음에 습도 센서, 뭐 이런 것들을 엮고, 뭐 그거에 따라서 반응하게 다른 것들을 엮어서 종합적인 환경을 구축하고 싶어요. 그러면 내가 그것들을 개별 제품으로만 볼 게 아니라 그것들이 상호 연동될 수 있는 전체 시스템으로 구성해야 되거든요. 그러면 이것들이 상호 연동이 될 수 있을까? 그리고 내가 이거를 엮어낼 수 있을까? 라는 고민들을 해야 되는데, 한 외국의 웹사이트는 그 회사가 이미 어떻게 보면 서티피케이션을 내주는 겁니다. 그래서 내가 내 클라우드 환경을 구축을 해놓고 내 자신의 클라우드 환경 내에 이미 지금 시장에 나와 있는 상용화된 제품들을 다 미리 그러니까 그 인티그레이션을 해놓는 거죠. 그리고 그것을 마치 웹사이트의 하나의 어떤 패키지 형태로 소개를 하는 겁니다. 그래서 웹사이트에 있는 상품을 종합선물센터 같이 나와 있는 걸 쭉 보고, 아, 내가 이거를 필요로 하겠다라고 하면 선택을 쭉 하면 그것에 맞춰서, 그러니까 이미 그것들에 대해서는 인티그레이션 포인트에 대한 것을 고민할 필요가 없는 거죠. 왜냐하면 그 서비스 회사는 이미 미리 그런 것들을 준비해 놓은 것이기 때문에. 그래서 그런 식의 그 업체들이 많이 생겨난다면 내가 개별 요소들을 고민할 필요가 없을 거라 생각이 들거든요. 그래서 이미 그 회사에만 접속하면, 고르면 그것만으로 연동으로 끝나는. 그래서 국내에서도 개별 서비스 업체가 혼자만의 일이 아니라 그것들이 함께 모여서 더 파워를 낼 수 있는 방법으로 고민을 할 수 있으면 좋지 않을까, 그런 생각을 하고 있습니다.
More about the consumer IoT, and I'd like to ask about the luxury IoT. You know, we've all seen the Apple coming out with the very, very expensive watch, and I was just thinking that it's very easy to make a gold case, but the risk is that this technology inside becomes obsolete. So what's going to happen with this? I mean, are you going to change the inner part with the new technology but keep the case, or, you know, where's this thing going, and is there even a big enough market for that? So smart luxury, like very 10,000 plus products, jewelries, things like that.
I think that's a great question, and I think that was the question that a lot of people asked when the $17,000 Apple Watch came out, right? Because if you had a Patek Philippe, you would probably pass that down to your grandkids. But would you actually pass down a $17,000 Apple Watch to your grandkids? Well, maybe as an antique and say, hey, look at what technology was like when grandfather was around. But it wouldn't be something that they would actually be able to use. So that is a kind of an outstanding problem in this space for the luxury wearables. However, I think that highlights the kind of products that need to be made, namely products that are complementary, that can be juxtaposed, that can be put next to existing products. And so having products that try to replace a Rolex or a Patek Philippe watch, I think that's tough. But a product that can work alongside it, maybe it's a strap that people are building, smart straps. Maybe that's what's going to be big in 2016. But I think complementary is powerful. outright replacement, it's going to be tough. Because remember, people don't wear, I think telling time is just an alibi for wearing a watch for many people. A lot of people wear watches that they don't even wind up. Why? Because they're clearly not wearing the watch to tell time, you know? And I think people hold these products precious, not just because of functionality. So I think functionality really needs to be complementary and to go alongside other things that you wear.
Yeah, I think it's a very good question. So smart luxury. The two things don't necessarily go together, and we've seen a couple of examples of this over the last couple of years. Obviously, there was the Google Glass partnership with Diane von Furstenberg, trying to put together tech and fashion and the two worlds and integrate those two worlds. I still think we're at our very early days of this tech-fashion collaboration. And we see this, a lot of the fashion brands, the world's top fashion brands, they're intrigued by tech. They want to get involved. They know it's the way of the future. But still, to your point, it's very difficult, you know, really understanding how to make tech cool. You've obviously launched the Misfit with the Swarovski crystal. And you know, had amazing success with that. But I think a lot of companies out there are challenged with this. One of the other companies we work with is called Ringly, and where they've tried to solve this problem of the obsolescence challenge with technology. So it's a smart ring. So when you put it on, it connects to your smartphone. If you get a phone call, the ring vibrates. Or you can connect it and make it vibrate or light up for whatever function you want on your phone. And what they've done is created a beautiful gold or metallic ring with a gemstone. And the idea is, once the technology inside becomes obsolete, you can actually continue wearing it as a beautiful fashion accessory. And that's obviously just one way of getting around that issue. But I do think it's a very, very early space, and we're going to see a lot of change and a lot of experimentation over the next couple of years to solve it.
Yeah, that's a good point. And anyway, for fashion, we haven't seen yet out in the market things like, you know, washable RFIDs and things like that, which, you know, are there soon. Okay, then we are running out of time, so a quick question. PCH has offices in Shenzhen and San Francisco mainly, but also in Seoul, Hong Kong, and Tokyo as well. So what do you think for an IoT developer or company, where should they start? Where should they move next? Should they be closer to their customer or closer to the developers or the manufacturing all over the place, which is expensive kind of? So
yeah, in some ways I think the beauty of the world we live in today is that you can be anywhere in the world, sitting in your garage, and you can develop a product and you can prototype it and you can bring it to market. However, you better accept that you're going to need to travel and be on a plane very often. You know, so obviously a lot of companies are manufacturing in Shenzhen, in Korea as well, and so being close to these places is very beneficial. However, a lot of the consumers who are willing to pay the price for these type of products are based in the US and then increasingly in Asia. Again, we also have investors who largely, the ones who spend a lot of money, they reside in Silicon Valley. So I think it really is important to be connected and tapped into the different communities all over the world. You have the investment community in Silicon Valley, you have the manufacturing, and a lot of the development, IoT development in Asia and in China and Korea specifically. Then you have developers in San Francisco as well, and you have consumers in New York. And I think, as you said, we have offices all over the world, and it's specifically for that reason. It's that we want to be close to the different parts of the IoT ecosystem.
But as a starting company with 3 people, you know, you have to pick one place to begin with.
I'd say anywhere but San Francisco.
Sorry, where?
I'd say anywhere but San Francisco.
Anywhere. Why?
It's freaking expensive there.
So we have half a minute left. You wanted to add something.
예. 전 끝내기 전에 한 가지 좀 추가로 첨언드리고 싶은 것은요. 그러니까 보통 IoT 서비스를 개발하시는 분들이 자신의 디바이스나 자신의 서비스에만 포커싱하시는 경우가 많이 있는 것 같아요. 근데 그 어떤 소비자의 관점으로 생각해 보면 그 어느 누구도 전등을 켜기 위해서 전등을 켜는 앱을 구동하고, 문을 열기 위해서 그 스마트 도어락을 위한 앱을 구동하고, 뭐 자동차 키를 위해서는 자동차 키를 하는 앱을 구동해야 된다 그러면 너무 많은 앱들을 다 사용해야 될 겁니다. 그 어느 누구도 원하지 않는 세상이잖아요. 그래서 사실 그게 경쟁사건 아니면 파트너의 관계가 만들어질 수 있건 간에 그런 고민을 뭐 하기보다는 최대한 협력을 해서 하나의 어떤 환경, 상호 연동될 수 있는 환경을 어떻게 수용해 나갈 것이냐가 키 밸류라고 생각을 합니다. 그래서 그런 부분에 대한 고민이 좀 있었으면 좋겠습니다. 예.
All right, time's up. Thank you very much. Thank you for listening.
Thank you all.
Thank you.
네, 고맙습니다.